friends, today we're going to talk about the scroll stitch. The scroll stitch to me looks like waves, ocean waves. Not this, but if it's turned upside down. if I turn it upside down like this, to me it reminded me of ocean waves. And that's probably my favorite way to use it, but you can use it the distance that you put between them, if you do them regularly about this far apart, or you can do them closer together, further apart. You can do them reversed like this into each other, or you can do it so that the little knot fits in between each of these gaps. And we'll look at a couple of the different ways to do that as we're looking at it. So I am working with a number 5 thread. This stitch looks better in thicker thread than it does in thinner threads. The smaller your threads are, the more this stuff just disappears and it ends up looking like little knots in a row. Okay, so you can see that I just come out on the left. I've done a few here, but I'm going to show you from this point. So whenever I'm doing a second one, I always hold down the first one. The tricky part about this stitch is getting the tension right. And I have it wrong here a couple times to show you. See how consistent these are, and you can see all three of the, you can see the little knots, and they have about the same wave behind them. And then when I'm going this way, I've pulled it almost too far out, and you can see that it doesn't look near as nice as that one. So it's one that you want to practice enough until you can get that consistent. Then you need to know where you're headed. You can do that by drawing a line and following it, because your stitches each time where you take the bite out of the cloth will be consistent. And you're also may want to make sure that they're the same distance apart. So if I were doing this, I might be tempted to, let's get something you can actually see it on, to draw my line with my ruler. Don't have a ruler handy, and then just do my little dots the same distance apart so that I know where I'm headed. I don't know if you can see those very well on the video. That way I would know where I was headed. Okay, this contrast shows up better on the video. So I always hang on to the last stitch as I'm doing it. And then my stitch line obviously is headed in this direction. It won't show up, but it's headed in this direction. So I'm going to think of a clock, because a clock helps me get the stitches in the right place as I do it, and it helps me explain it to you. So I'm going to take a little bite out of that stitch line, and the little bite is going to start at about 2 o'clock, maybe 1:30. So I'm going to come in right here, and I'm going to come out. I usually say 2 to 7, 2 to 8, 1:30 to 7:30, something like that. That's the little bite I'm going to take. So this is my straight line here, and so 12 o'clock is up, 6 o'clock's towards me. I'm going to take that little bite right there, okay? And then my thread here, actually, I want a shorter thread so that it doesn't distract from the pictures. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I cut the right end of the thread. Okay, there's my bite from 2 o'clock down to 8 o'clock. And then we take the thread from the last stitch and we go under the back of the thread, and then under the back of the needle, and then under the front of the needle. Come on, go under. There we go. Under the back, under the front. And then I pull it through. And as I pull it through, when I get down to near the edge or near the end, it will stay, your tension will stay best if you pull it straight up. I don't know if you can see it behind my hand, but if you pull straight up, then your tension will stay where it needs to be. Okay, let's do another one. So remember, hang on to that one while we're taking our next one, while we're taking our next bite. 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock, underneath the back, underneath the front, whoops, underneath the back, underneath the front, sit it down. Now still, I'm going to use my fingernail right here so that hopefully you can see better. Still, I am holding that stitch before it down, because the tension on the scroll stitch is the tricky part. And when it gets close to where I'm going to pull it in, you can see there's a big curve, and I have to pull it just the right amount that it'll stay laying down and not have a tendency to pull up like this, or like these right here pulled up. Okay, so let's pull straight up, and not too tight because you want it to be able to lay down. All right, let's do another one. Whoops, let's do another one. The only thing that keeps that thread down is just it laying there. It can take off, so you kind of, that's part of why I hold that down. Let's go in at 2, out at 7, and then put your thread behind the back, behind the front. When it gets close, pull it straight up so you can keep your tension good. Yeah, just like that. If you pull too tight and you haven't been hanging on to this one, it will pop and your knot will disappear and it'll just be kind of like a twisted thread. Okay, let's take this. When you are finished with your thread, you can either do it out just a little ways so that it leaves almost like half of a wave on it, but I usually end up by just going down right next to it, right next to where that knot is, so that hopefully my thread will hold that knot right there in place. Okay, that's the direction that most directions for doing the scroll stitch are. But if you want it to go the other way, and this may be helpful to left-handers, I'm going to show you how to do it the opposite direction. Because if you want them to fit together like this, you need it to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to start this one right here. I'm going to put, on this one, I tried to match up my knots so that I would have like little, I don't know, blobs in between. This one I'm going to try and offset my knots. So let's pull that up. Okay, now think backwards. In order to think backwards, the direction that you go, whether it's 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock, is the same direction as where your thread comes out. So this time it's got to be, and I want to do it right in here, 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And under the back, under the front, pull through. Then hang on to it. 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock, under the back, around the top, under the top, I guess, and then pull through. Again, hanging on to that one so it doesn't take off. 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock, under the back, under the front, and pull through. Don't pull too tight. You want to leave your little loops there. So that's how you can go the opposite direction on it. So, but if I wanted my waves to be this direction, I think it's easier to just turn my whole project upside down and go that way instead. So you can decide which way you like, whether you like to go the overhand way or the underhand way. But that is the scroll stitch. See you next time.